So there's been some more waves in the Star Wars community lately. A couple of different things. I think it's some of that broke today, some of the stuff you're going to share. But yeah, the main thing in the last week that's been making the rounds is the director of the upcoming Ray movie. I say that because obviously they have a tendency not to make the movies they announce that they're going to make.
Right.
Um,
Which again,
is
well, the way
do
this is
what?
going, this one's off to a bad start.
Yeah, and it's funny because we hit 2024. 2023 was a dumpster fire for Hollywood in general, and Disney especially. So, um, I was thinking maybe they'd try a little bit different approach going forward, considering the state that the Star Wars franchise is in currently. And I know we're gonna do a video down the road a little ways to talk through the upcoming projects where we feel like the franchise is currently and where we think it's going, because I think that's an interesting topic to discuss because of the struggles they had last year. I mean, you think of what we got last year. We got Mando season 3, then we got Ahsoka, and so we kind of have a lot to a lot of negatives with that stuff, but also the stuff that's been announced for this year is not the most promising either. So yeah, when I saw this quote the other day, um, I just rolled my eyes because I was like, different years, same Disney, and but the director, who, if I'm saying her name right, it's Charmaine Obaid Chinoy. Um, she came out, I believe it was CNN that this article or this quote um, came from, but she said, I'm gonna pull this up so uh, I don't butcher this quote. But yeah, so this is a Variety article. It says Daisy Ridley's new Star Wars director says it's about time we had a female filmmaker come forward to shape the galaxy far, far away. And when you see that, as a Star Wars fan, um, you're thinking, "Where have I heard this before?" Right? um, and
Mm.
it's ironic. The thing that I thought about, and I've heard other uh, content creators say the same thing, is yeah, who's been running Lucasfilm for the last decade? Um, a female, right?
Right. That's
So
that's where I'm at. I mean, you know, you know, if I was Disney, I know the struggles I've had. I mean, it's hard to understand. They're a plenty big enough company to know and be able to understand why they've had those problems. So to have one of your directors come out for a movie that's not even, you know,
I don't even know if they've done any production on it yet.
right, that to
Maybe some
say something like
pre-production,
that,
but
it's like what are you doing? Because now, like, already as a Star Wars fan, could care less about that movie. Like, if you're going to talk about it like that, I don't even want to see it. And I'm a big Star Wars fan.
well, and I think, and then I've actually made this claim, and I believe it was Bryant that called me on it when we did our last Star Wars. Like I told him, I said, I will not be going to see this movie in theaters. And he said, I bet you will. And it's that comment that you just made, because you're the type of person that you're going to see pretty much everything, whereas I'm the type of person that there's things I won't see if they push the wrong buttons, kind of thing. So the fact that you're saying that is very telling, because you're more likely to go see it than I am, and you're even saying
Right.
you don't really it makes you less interested.
Well, and here's why. It's not because I'm worried about, it's not because I don't, it's not because I disagree with what she's saying. Like, I'm not saying just because she's a female filmmaker, I don't want to go watch it. That's not what, I don't go to a movie or watch a TV show to have somebody else's opinions of, or of whatever, forced on me in in any way. I'm going for you to tell me a story. I don't need you know.
all your propaganda and stuff to go
Well,
with it,
I wouldn't
basically.
even call it that. I don't need your you know. I don't care about your political opinions as a director. Like I don't care. Like just tell me the story and leave all that out of it.
Well, I think that's a clarification. Like, I I've heard other people say this, but it's like never have you went to a movie and said, "Man, I really enjoyed that," and someone told you like, "Hey, a female made this," and you're like, "Ah, I don't like it anymore." It's like,
No.
no, it has nothing to do with whether it's a guy or a girl doing, producing these movies, and I think that's sort of where I'm at with it, where it's like, I don't care
Yeah.
if you're male, female, if you're a cat, if like, I
I,
don't
I really
care. It's
don't.
just like
Like I mean, I don't
just
care.
make good Star Wars.
Well,
And
in movies in general, like I don't care about all this. Just tell me a good story, present it in a pleasing or visually pleasing way, and you know,
interesting characters, yeah.
don't do anything crazy to take my attention off of the story, and we're good. Like
Well, and
that's the root of movies and entertainment. That's what people want. They don't like people people work, 40 hours a week. Most people, they don't go to watch a movie to get, you know, lecture on what they
yeah,
should
the
think.
current state of politics and such, yeah.
Right. Like I don't care.
Well, and what's worse to me about this, and this just shows where Disney was at when they hired her, is she's a self-proclaimed director and activist. So, like, when she introduces herself, she's like, "Yeah, I'm very upfront and clear that, like, I'm an activist," and I even heard a quote the other day from her, and I think it was from 4 or 5 years ago, but she's like, "I'm an activist, and everything I've ever made has had some aspect of my activism in it." She's like, "It may be covert or it may be overt, but it's in there." And so, like, she's not shy about these things, and so my thing is not like, Star Wars fans do not care about that. The ones that wanna see a good Star Wars movie, they just want you to come make good Star Wars, and I think this is
Well,
where
and even
Disney still has not learned their lesson here, is it's like, we
right.
do not care what these people do in their personal lives. If they can come in and make a good Star Wars movie, then that's all we care about.
Well, and even I'll even say this. So you can put that activism in there, even if it's, you know, I would say more covert than overt. I'm not saying you can't put it in there, but don't don't come out and say, you know, basically, I mean, just she's literally saying all the wrong things for a director for a movie, again, movie that's
If
not
you're trying
even
to promote it, yeah, that's it.
right,
You're splitting the fan base that's already been split how many times at this point?
right.
So,
Well, and I'll say if she makes a good movie, knocks it out of the park, even if there is some overt, you know, messaging in there, like I would say most Star Wars fans are willing to overlook it as long as it's not so overt that it messes with the story. Like if
I would
it's a good
agree.
story,
Yeah.
like if it's a good story, like okay, yeah, that one scene I don't agree with, but the rest of the movie, man, that was so good. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think we've all seen movies like that, especially in the last few years with how things have gotten uber political. You've seen a lot of that, but there's some movies I've seen, like one of my favorite movies. This is just like a side example. One of my favorite movies is The Day After Tomorrow, which is an apocalyptic movie based on global warming. It's like, I don't agree with everything that the climate folks push, but that's an entertaining movie that just happens to be based around a natural disaster that happens from climate change. And it's like, okay, I may not agree with all the crazy stuff that's being spewed by those people, but I can enjoy that movie, and that's an example of how maybe a smaller example of how I can enjoy, like you said, enjoy the movie and still have minor gripes with certain things, but I can overlook that because I enjoyed it.
Right. Right. Because the movie is that good.
Yeah, but I think what the issue is here is not only that, but it's the fact that when you look up her credentials, the things that she's actually produced at this point, directed, it's like a couple of documentaries, like not like I think one of them was something to do with Pakistan, and I want to say she might be from there originally. But like documentaries about that, and then she had directed like 2 episodes of Miss Marvel, the Disney Plus show. And so the other thing is, uh, she's done two uh, nonfiction documentaries and 2 episodes of a superhero show. How is she qualified to direct a sci-fi epic set in a galaxy far, far away? It's like, how does
That's
she
what
get to
she should
go?
be talking about, right?
It's crazy to me. Like
Like
when you look at
she
that,
should be if I was Disney, I wouldn't want her to be put in the bed those critics saying that she's not qualified by not talking about how she's, I think in that same quote you were talking about, she says, I'm not a director, I'm an activist or whatever, something along those lines. That's not a direct quote, but like that does nothing to soothe any naysayers about anything.
yeah. Let me see if I can find that. Uh, I don't know if this article has that quote, but
Because I mean, like that's what I would want to see as as Disney. I think is like, why are you qualified to direct this film? Tell me that rather than tell me about your, you know,
well,
that
most
you're an
people just
activist.
don't.
Okay,
Most people
cool.
just don't care. I feel like that's a thing that Kathleen Kennedy really cares about. And because she's not been shy about, uh, hiring those people. You look at someone like Leslie Headland, who's the showrunner for The Acolyte. She's also somewhat of a self-proclaimed activist to some degree, and it's like those are just the people that she likes to hire. And um, someone like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who was in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, she's kind of the same way. Where all of these people, and I get it. I'm not trying to single out the women, but it's like there's this pattern of her hiring a certain type of individual to do these projects, and it seems like she's doing it based on credentials that don't really matter to the thing that's actually being made. It's just more about like, oh, I like these type of people because they're activists or they like this stuff, they believe this stuff. When in reality, she's like, should be thinking, who could make the best Star Wars, who could make the best Indiana Jones, and all this stuff. And and I think that's where Disney just has not learned their lesson, and that's that they cannot understand that broad the broadest part of those audiences, like the people who follow Lucasfilm products, the people who follow the Marvel stuff, the people who follow Disney and Pixar and all those things, the broad majority of those people, all they care about, like we've said, like you said, is they want to sit down in front of their TVs in their living rooms, in a movie theater, wherever, and they want to be entertained and watch something that they can enjoy and sort of tune out all the stuff in life that's going around and just escape for a while.
Right.
And I think what Disney's been doing the last 4 or 5 years is like, hey, let's just drag all this real world stuff back in here so that you can't escape. And that's why people have just been turning it off.
Yeah, that's that's where I'm at with it. I don't know. They're going to continue to get buried at the box office. I mean, until they learn their lesson. I mean, just put a good product out there. Like I don't care. Again, I don't care about the activism. It, if she puts a good Star Wars product out there, I'm awesome. That's great. But the reality is, all these, a lot of the people Kathleen Kennedy has hired have not put good Star Wars products out there, and then we've got now we're where we're at now, where we even have to talk about something like this. Like, if all the tell me the truth, if all the Star Wars content we've gotten since Disney bought Star Wars was good stuff, and she come out and said this, I don't know that it would even be worth mentioning.
Well, what we should be talking about is theorizing about what direction they're gonna take the characters in the story. That's what we should be talking about as Star Wars fans. We should be talking about the universe itself, but there's all
Right.
these stupid distractions that's been coming up, and so the topic is always on, "What did this director say? What did this actor say? What did this actress say?" And it's like, because
Well, and there is some. I think Disney. I'll say this: maybe they are starting to learn their lesson, maybe a little, because I don't know if you know much about the Snow White movie. They were going to do a
oh, yeah, I've been following all that saga.
live action Snow White that I think got canned now, right?
Uh, I think it's shelved indefinitely,
Yeah, I think like
or until
last
further
I heard, they were
notice.
going to have to reshoot basically the whole movie.
Yeah, I've heard everything from they're canning it to they're just postponing it several months to they're firing the main actress and recasting her. I've heard several different rumors, and I don't know what to believe. I would imagine there's no way they could put it out as it was based
No,
on the
no,
leaks and stuff, but
no.
also with the Daily Wire coming out with their own version, I think they have to put something out to compete with it. And so I
Yeah,
think they will make it. The question is, will it be the same actress? Will it be completely like the Indiana Jones movie where they had to do reshoots to infinity, And
right.
I think they'll put
Well,
it
and
out,
I'll
but
say
I
this
think
about the
they
Daily
realize they
Wire.
can't do it as is right now.
I'll say this about the Daily Wire. Um, they can do that because Disney basically ripped off a lot of these movies and stories from Grimm's fairy tales, which is actually like public, like anybody can use it at this point, essentially.
Well, and other companies have. I mean, um, it's like I watched the remake that the live action remake that Disney did of Peter Pan that came out this past year, and then and it was terrible,
It
and
was.
it was so bad. And then I kept talking to my wife about it. I was like, "Hey, we grew up watching the one that Universal did back in the early 2000s, and it was actually pretty good." And so we sat down and watched it, and she's like, "I really like that one." And I was like, "Yeah, it kind of feels timeless and classic, and it's true to the soul of the story." Um, and it's like, it's things like that where we get to the point where just like we're not asking for you to bring us the moon. We just want you to make it the way we've always loved it. And I think that's where the Daily Wire is like, we may not have the production, the money, the production scale that some of these big studios have, but we can stick to that timeless
Not yet, they
classic
don't.
tale. Uh,
Not yet,
yeah,
they don't. They
if
might.
the bigger studios keep pushing people away, then all these folks are going to give their money to
Right.
these smaller studios like them, like Angel Studios that did Sound of Freedom, and they're sort of growing a little bit as well. So and those are things that we're going to see more of, and as long as Hollywood continues to go the path it's going. But I think that kind of you mentioned sort of the box office stuff. That kind of brings us into what you were going to bring up, and I think this is sort of tacked on to the whole Star Wars thing. But I'll let you sort of roll that out.
Yeah. Just the news today, recording this on January 9th, the news today, breaking from Lucasfilm announcing that they're going to let Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni do a Mando and Grogu, uh, you know, movie specifically about them two. So interesting. It'll be interesting to find out when exactly that'll come out, in relation to Filoni's movie. I assume it would come out before because it would probably feed into Filoni's movie some.
Well, I think the question is, did they make a distinction as to whether those are the same thing or they're separate?
They're separate. They're saying they're separate.
They said that because I haven't seen the
Yeah,
report yet.
yeah. From what I understand.
Huh.
Let's see. I'll read it.
I'm reacting to this all in real time because
The-
I was busy at the time I saw the announcement come out and I did not get a chance to read it. So I was just going to wait and see what you
So
said when
this
you
is
brought it
the
up.
quote that Lucasfilm had put out. The Mandalorian and Grogu are headed to the big screen. Directed by Jon Favreau and produced by Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni, The Mandalorian and Grogu will go into production later this year.
Huh.
So that to me doesn't make it sound like it's the Heir to the Empire movie.
No, it sounds a lot more small scale than that.
Which
My thing is with like just initially my reaction to that is, uh, what more are they gonna do with those characters?
I,
Like,
that
like
that's why I
honestly,
say I think it's got to be leading up to Heir to the Empire.
yeah, but it's
Like
like, what are
obviously
they gonna
Ahsoka,
do? What are they gonna do that they haven't already done in 3 seasons of The Mandalorian?
right? They haven't confirmed a Mandalorian season 4, right? I
I would
think this is
imagine this is
probably
gonna take the place of it if I had to
yeah.
guess.
I was gonna say this may be the culmination.
But like the way they ended season 3, they kind of leave it on a, could have ended the whole series there kind of thing.
Right,
Because they sort of completed the whole Mandalore story arc, and him and Grogu kind of go back to just the bounty hunting and everything, and it's like, okay, where are we going from here? And that's where we thought it was going to lead into the Heir to the Empire stuff.
so I don't
Um,
know. Again, Ahsoka season 2 is confirmed, so I assume that'll come out before this.
I would imagine if they're starting production later this year, that we will probably see it 2026, which I think is when they announced the first of the new movies was coming out. Which I think
Right.
they've already said on multiple occasions that the Rey movie is supposed to be the first one that they're going to
That's what
release.
I understood too. But that 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 report makes it seem like this one may be pushing up in front of that
Well,
one. We'll see.
I think
But
we'd have to do, and I'm gonna do a little looking on this, where the Rey movie is in terms of where it is in terms of production. Have they started filming yet? I'm gonna look that up and see if I can find something about it. It says,
well,
according
and
to this, they'll begin shooting. This is CBR.com. They'll start shooting April 7th of this year. So they haven't even started shooting. But if that is correct, um, they will start shooting before the Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni movie. So if I had to guess, I would say the Ray movie. If we go based on what Disney's done with the MCU stuff, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Ray movie come in like May of 2026, and then us get the Mando and Grogu in like December 2026.
good possibility. Good
Uh,
possibility. And like there's plenty of Star Wars shows coming out this year. Obviously no movies, but
well, that's been announced at least.
right. So we'll
they've
see.
been, they've
But
been pretty
just an
quiet on a lot
interesting
of that, but
I just think it's interesting to me that it's not an Heir to the Empire, so it's separate. So I wonder where that puts your Heir to the Empire being released. Like obviously
I
no
think it
earlier
all
than 20.
depends, doesn't it, on because if Dave Filoni's having to direct that one as well.
Well,
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna
I mean,
say.
I would think like 2028, but I mean, it could be 2027. I mean, it just depends on how related those two movies are to each other.
Right.
Um,
Well, and obviously Ahsoka season 2 will probably have some answers, and there may be some other content between here and there that you know maybe provides maybe provides some context as to where we're at. But I assume
hard
it.
to say with that.
Well, no, so no sooner than 27. Sounds like for
Yeah, and
the
I would think we won't get
Heir to the
Ahsoka
Empire.
season 2 till 2025
Right.
because this year we're supposed to get, I think last I heard, I wanna say Bad Batch season 3 is the next one coming,
Yeah, I think
uh,
so. And then
and
you got
then
The
maybe
Acolyte,
Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew.
The Acolyte, last I heard, they were having to do reshoots, and that they had delayed it a little later than they thought. Because I think The Acolyte was supposed to be the first one come out this year, and they've had a lot of delays on it. They haven't even released a trailer for it.
Nope.
Supposedly, there was one at, either Star Wars Celebration or, one of the Comic Cons that they did. Supposedly, there was one that
I
only
haven't
the people that were there
actually.
saw, but
I think there was, but it was not like a extensive anything. It was just kind of a
footage or something.
almost, I would say, almost a teaser trailer.
Yeah. Well, and
But anyway,
yeah, I mean, that's we won't really know that. I think like everything that Lucasfilms put out the last few years, you have to take it all with a grain of salt because I think until they've finished filming and they're like, "Hey, this is finished. We paid for it. It has to be put out." We can't believe that anything's going to come out because I think um, I'm still skeptical that James Mangold's going to get his movie after the way the Indiana Jones movie went, and I think the Ray movie's gonna get made for better or for worse, um, but they just have a track record of announcing a lot of movies that don't end up happening. So you just kind of have to say, well, when it's out, we'll know for sure that that's getting made, kind of thing. Or if we get a release date for it. Uh, but at this point, it's like I think they don't really know what they're doing with it.